Hello everyone, welcome to the Mill Pro Akron channel. I'm Ross Elder. The world is currently on fire. Everyone has Ebola. And we're all going to die. Well, not really. Not so much. But if you're getting all of your news from InfoWars, Prison Planet, Above Top Secret, Before It's News, Viral Survival, and a whole plethora of other websites that call themselves alternative news, you're filling your mind with a bunch of bullshit. So here's what you need to do. You need to go to my website, ross-elder.com, and check out my more recent debunkings of all the conspiracy theories floating around in social media today. Believe it or not, a lot of people spend more time following social media than they do watching or reading actual news. So what you get are websites who modify those stories in order to fit in with their agenda. Now, I'm not talking about having a political slant like your CNN or Fox News or MSNBC. I'm talking about people who take tidbits of truth and throw them into a mixture of 80% bullshit, and then they mix in some complete fabrication on top of that, and then they put the information out. So something like, oh my God, the United States government patented Ebola becomes a grand conspiracy to infect the world's population with Ebola and population control and reduction of the Earth's population by 90%. None of that's true. The part about patenting the Ebola virus or a strain of the Ebola virus is absolutely true. But what the U.S. government did was they took a strain of Ebola that they could isolate, they weakened it, they modified it to make it safer for researchers to work with it so that they could come up with treatments, detection protocols, and potentially a cure. Now, why would the government patent such a thing, though? Well, that was to prevent other people from patenting it and then charging people for access to the virus to conduct their research. The government gives researchers and scientists access to this weakened strain of Ebola free of charge. So it isn't part of a grand conspiracy. It's just reality. It's what happens. And the patenting of life forms and modified life forms is quite common within the scientific community. So just because some dickhead with an internet connection found a patent for Ebola doesn't mean the government is coming to kill you by injecting you with this deadly hemorrhagic fever. Now, is Ebola airborne? No, it's not. If you can't take 10 minutes to do research on respectable medical and scientific websites that have put this information out for the last 40 years, then you're an idiot. If you're going to take information that you got from some anonymous jackass who posted it on the internet and just accept it at face value and say, oh my God, Ebola is airborne, then you're an idiot. I'm not really sure that you should be allowed to breathe oxygen, because we don't need people like you breeding and mucking up the gene pool any more than you already have. Ebola is not airborne. The end. You are confusing terminology with aerosol. It can be aerosolized, which means it travels inside your bodily fluids if you spew them out, if you cough, if you sneeze, if you puke on someone. That's how it spreads. It doesn't float off into the air and get carried by the wind currents and infect someone 20 miles away. It doesn't. Now, I've seen a lot of people referencing the Reston Ebola virus, the Reston strain of Ebola, and saying that some researchers believe that it may have gone airborne at some point in time. Now, first of all, that isn't true, but Reston virus kills monkeys. Yeah, monkeys. Not humans, monkeys. The only humans who ever became infected with it were researchers who were studying the monkeys. and something happened where they actually cut themselves while they were dissecting an infected monkey or trying to inject something into a monkey and accidentally injected themselves. No humans died, just monkeys. So, if you're not a monkey, you don't have to worry about Reston virus. It's not even something that's considered to be in an outbreak stage right now. Now, another thing that they talk about with regard to Ebola is the fatality rates. Some people are saying 90%, 80%. And none of that's true either. Each strain of Ebola during its outbreak has been judged on its own merits. So you had an outbreak of one patient, and that patient died. You have a 100% fatality rate. And if you have one patient who gets infected and that patient doesn't die, you have a fatality rate of 0. So all these people who are saying 90%, they're quoting from specific outbreaks that only affected a handful of people. When you have Ebola that has affected large numbers of people, like in the thousands of people, the average fatality rate is roughly 50%. It's almost exactly 50%. So each strain has a varying degree of fatality, but it's because of the varying degrees or the varying sizes of the sample pools that they have. Now, you also have to take into consideration that most of these Ebola infections, by the time they are presented to hospital workers or scientists or doctors in Africa, they already have full-blown symptomatic Ebola. There really isn't any way to save them. They're too far gone. The early detection isn't happening fast enough, and that's what's causing the high fatality rates. These are countries who can't treat the flu. They don't have immunization programs, even for things like polio. So their abilities to fight something like Ebola are very, very limited. You'll notice that we've had people infected with Ebola right here in the United States because they were exposed to the African man who came over and brought it with him. None of those people have died. We, here in the United States, with our world-class healthcare system, are capable of detecting it, treating it, and preventing it from killing you if it's detected early enough. So your fears about Ebola, the end of the world, are just totally misguided, that they border on retardation. So stop it and stop spreading this information. You're not going to get Ebola. Your chances of marrying Kim Kardashian are greater than your chances of catching Ebola in the United States. If you haven't traveled to West Africa any time in the last 3 months, you don't have Ebola. If you haven't treated a patient who had Ebola and you haven't had their bodily fluids all over you while you were trying to treat them, you don't have Ebola. So give it a rest and stop visiting those websites. If you want some truth with your daily dose of bullshit, visit my website, ross-elder.com. Look for my articles. They're kind of going all over the place. Recently, yesterday actually, an article of mine was posted on Ranger Up's Rhino Den. You can check that out. I debunked a couple of conspiracies all in one article there. We talk about DHS and their 30 billion rounds of ammunition, which wasn't really true. But it's all explained out there. And then, look for my articles in Soldier of Fortune magazine, the latest edition. December of 2014 has a couple of things in there for me. So give it a look. Keep in touch. Follow me on Facebook and on Twitter. And visit my website. And until next time, Ross Elder. Train safe, train hard, and stay alive. Ebola free. You're going to be